My favorite preacher in the world has come to join us today, and there's something we need to deal with, and so we're going to turn this down to here. He's going to be on the lapel mic in just a minute, but again, I asked some of you that are on doing student teaching to come down because we didn't want you to miss this, and we want to be able to talk to you individually about some things, and so I don't want to say anything until after Pastor's been able to talk to you about it, but I do appreciate every one of you. We love you, and we want you guys to, again, be a part of all that we're doing. We spoke to the staff last night about what preacher's going to be able to speak about, and so we don't want you to hear this secondhand. We wanted you to hear it from our preacher today. Preacher, you come on.
I'll just go on down there. Theme verse that we started when we first came here. Use it at Sunday school banquets and various things. And it's very comprehensive. It goes from beginning to how things end up. This thing on? Okay. I will be explaining how we're changing gears here a little bit. And talked last night to the staff. I don't know, some of you might have been there. And put a letter in the mail that the congregation will be getting today, tomorrow, next couple of days. And so I wanted to talk to you college-wise a little bit on the inside so you would understand what's taking place. And let's look at the verse first, over in Galatians chapter 6. Tremendous chapter, of course, and verses. But verse 9, let us not be weary in well-doing, for in due season we shall reap if we faint not. We understand the verse is easy enough to understand and the challenge of it. It tells us not be weary. Now, it don't say grow weary. It says not be weary. That means an attitude that you can take. Sometime if you have a job you dread doing, you can worry about it to where it stresses you out worse than doing the job would. You know, don't let the mind play tricks on you, so to speak. I'm going to ramble around and get to the main point in a minute. I saw one time an experiment made years and years ago, probably before I was in the ministry, where they took some high school athletes, muscle guys, strong guys. And you've seen this sort of a thing. You've been to an orange festival somewhere where they had a big hammer and you hit it and run the thing up and ring the bell. Anybody ever seen that? Well, some of us probably thought we were pretty good at it when we were younger. But they took these college athletes to a place where they had some gimmicks like that. And they would let them swing the hammer or whatever test of strength it was, and they'd measure it. Let's say we'll go with the hammer and the bell. And some of them could go maybe 75% of the way or 90% of the way. And maybe a few after a time or two could actually hit the 100, ring the bell. But then they had this guy that could hypnotize them. Now what that means is, and I don't recommend it, he takes control of your brain, of your mind. And a lot of it's fake, but it is possible to do that. I've seen it done in person. Knew the people that got hypnotized and know they really did. So they hypnotized some of those athletes. And then they would tell one of them, you can't go over 50. He'd been hitting 75 and 80, but he couldn't hit it over 50 to save his life. And they'd tell one that had been only getting up there about 60 or 70, you can go to 100. And he'd hit it and go to 100. Now, what am I saying? I'm saying the mind put a limit on what they could do and what they couldn't do. That is true with us. There is a lot of that. That's why sometimes you read a story about a car catching on fire and a wreck or something, and the guy stopping and lifting the car up. Well, he never could do that. But the stimulus of the moment made him twice as strong as he normally would be. So this verse talks about a way of thinking. And it tells us over here to not be weary. That's a mental position that we take. Let us not be weary. And the task is in well-doing. Now we can put a long list on well-doing. So let's don't have an attitude in our mind we can't. Somebody's made the statement that they were going to cut the word can't out of their dictionary. Well, that might be a good idea. Because that limits you. You can't do it because you don't believe you can. That sort of thing. Then it says, for in due season we shall reap if we faint not. Time passes. Due season comes. But what we've done before due season gets there depends on what kind of reaping we're going to do. What the crop's going to turn out to be, so to speak, what we've planted. And then it says, if we faint not, if we quit before we get to that point, then naturally we don't reap much. That's a good verse when we take the whole scope of serving God, from the time we get saved and make up our mind to do something for God till we get to the end of it. Now, I'm looking at some of you that are not that far into your life of serving the Lord. Maybe you've been saved a while, but you're just now committed and surrendered to come to Bible college, and all that's great. But in a sense, you're still hanging around the first doorstep. Now, you're looking back at me while I'm looking at you, and you're looking at a guy that's already been up the steps, up to the top of the porch. That's what I'm going to talk to you about a little bit right now. You're looking at a guy that through the years, I guess in a sense, I've grown weary many times in the work of God. Tired myself out for sure. But I've never quit. I never fainted. Now I'm into the reaping period. See? I'm sure glad that the early stages I didn't give up and quit. Some of those low moments, some of those valleys, some of those times when something went wrong and when I hurt the worst, and the easiest thing would have been to quit. But I'm at the reaping stage now, and I look back, I'm sure glad I didn't quit. So I'm trying to say to you, get your mental attitude right, wherever you're at, how you're doing, how you're serving. Because in due season it will arrive. And now in due season we'd like for the Lord to come, but suppose He don't for 10 years. You're going to have a due time come. The time you arrive at. And a time that you reap. Somebody said, you're looking for your ship to come in. Don't look for one to come in if you didn't send one out. Good point to that. That's sowing and reaping again. And, of course, that's in the verses there. Verse 7, we're in verse 9. But I want to explain some changes we're fixing to make. I'm 85 years old. I'll be 86 in August. God has been good. I joked in the early years about claiming a promise. Read about Moses. At 120 years old, his natural force was not abated. Well, I couldn't quite live up to that. Number one, I hadn't made the 120. And number two, my natural force is not what it used to be. So I'm not going to be able to quite claim that promise. But God has been good to me, even strength and health-wise, my wife and I. Yet we have the weaknesses of too many birthdays and other things that have come on us. But I'm not whining about anything. I've not got any regrets. I can think about mistakes. I can think about challenges I didn't maybe meet like I'd love to. Sure I can. But when I look at the whole picture, I see the grace of God on my journey, on my time of serving the Lord. And if there's anybody in the world that would be ashamed to have any regrets to whine about, it ought to be me. So I take that attitude. I thank God for His blessings all the way. Now I've come to a time that I got to change gears to finish my course. I've been blessed to see the ministry grow here. And most of you know the story. I came here with just a few people, a little building with a mortgage on it, and hoping we could get money enough to pay the light bill that month. That's where we started. To where we're at now and where we've been at for so many years, that is a real tribute to God's grace. We praise Him for it. Now I'm fixing to change gears. This letter went out in the mail yesterday to our congregation. Last night I shared it with the staff. Of course, shared it with the deacons and all first, and then to the staff last night. Now it's going in the mail to the congregation. Some of them will get it today in Haines City, and some may not get it until the weekend. I will speak to it somewhat. We are fixing to start our Bible conference this weekend, so that's going to be the main thing. When that ends on the Sunday the 24th, I'll probably have a little more to finish this off and say. I'm going to read this. Yeah, pass them out, and then let them look at it as I'm reading it. It's always been boring to me to hear somebody get up and read a long piece of stuff. So if you're looking at it at the same time that I'm reading it to you, pass it out quick as you can, because some of you will read it twice before I get to it here.